is this the end of Georgia's dominance, or is it really just the blip that we all kind of thought it was in 2023? I say this because we're going into a year that is going to be brand new for so many, and because it's brand new for so many, people are already tired of talking about what the new Big Ten, the new SEC, the new Big 12, the new ACC are going to do, in addition to what the 12-team playoff is going to allow for. And as I've said, you're going to start talking about those at-large teams more than you're going to start talking about the teams that are going to secure first-round buys and get that automatic qualifier spot from the 12-team playoff. But how many of those are going to come out of the Big Ten? How many of those are going to come out of the SEC? The reason I think that is important is because we generally believe that the Big Ten and the SEC are going to provide a national championship contender. In the ACC, Florida State, Clemson, right? Miami, if they catch fire, that's about where we're willing to leave that. Whereas in the SEC, you can go 1 through 8 and feel really good about all of those teams having an opportunity to make the playoff and even winning the national championship because they are that talented. I think you can go 1 to 6 in the Big Ten before you start to have some drop off there. But the reason I wanted to focus on Georgia is because Georgia has been the standard bearer in this sport in the 2020s. Okay? Put a peep game here. Georgia is 86-11. 86-11 since 2017. Kirby Smart has won 96 games at Georgia since becoming the head coach. He got there, flipped the page real quick, and made them into a national championship contender year in and year out. And if they don't lose the SEC championship game to Alabama in 2023, we're talking about the first modern three-peat national champion that we've ever seen, right? Like, you can talk about Minnesota, we'll talk about Minnesota, but A, that happened before World War II, and B, we really don't think that they won 3 in a row if you go look at the math on this and how the voting was done. Whereas this Georgia team, we've known they've been stacked basically since 2017, and they have been monsters since 2020, right? Like, they've gone through quarterbacks that I think are just middling, and they've won national championships or made New Year's Six Bowls. Like, Jake Fromm still got to be a Georgia quarterback through the goodness of Kirby Smart's heart, okay? The same thing is true of JT Daniels, who at one point was considered one of the better quarterbacks coming out of high school, who turned out to be but still went to Georgia and was able to start a meaningful football game. Stetson Bennett walked on twice. I don't give a damn that you think that Stetson Bennett was a Heisman caliber player. I would be a Heisman caliber player. You would be a Heisman caliber player with the dudes they had around him. Like, that's who Georgia has been. It is a team that just needs a guy that ain't going to turn the ball over at quarterback because they're so good everywhere else, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. Okay, so there's that. There's also that, I've said before that Michigan has gone 41-3 in their last 44 games. Georgia's gone 42-2 in those last 44 games. It's ridiculous. Come on, it's ridiculous. It's like 28 games they didn't lose in the SEC. That's ridiculous. In what, for the last quarter century, has been the strongest conference in all of football. Then you add in there, their average ranking over the last 3 years is 1.3. Stupid. Just stupid, all right? So I don't think that anybody's really predicting the end of a Georgia run, but if you needed more to this, Carson Beck is good. He's not great. He's good. Can he win the Heisman Trophy? Sure. I've seen lesser players win the Heisman Trophy than Carson Beck. It's okay. Pencil him in as a guy that's going to be in there in December if and when Georgia makes the SEC championship game. That said, they're going to have to prove it. Like, I could tell you about Branson Robinson, who you are going to fall in love with if you have not already. That is your new favorite tailback, especially if you like Southeastern Conference football or even Big Ten football for that matter. That dude is so much fun, and he is a battering ram, okay? You've also got Mykel Williams, Nazir Stackhouse, Warren Brinson. I think Mykel and is going to have to do a lot of work on that. I think Warren Brinson and Nazir Stackhouse got some work to do before you convince me that interior line is good enough to win a national championship, but you're gonna get time. Trevor Etienne's also in the backfield over there. London Humphrey joined over from Vanderbilt. Dylan Bell might be George Pickens. I don't know. We'll see, right? Dominic Lovely ought to be good in the slot. They're going to be fine on the offensive line, if not great, right? Tate Ratledge is probably going to be a first-round pick at guard, which is still its own thing. To get a guy that is getting drafted as a guard in the first round means he is one of the more impressive human beings in the entire sport, let alone at the athletic position of guard. And then you got to go at Bama, at Texas, at Ole Miss. If they make it through those three without losing a game, yeah, we're probably all going to pencil them in for the national championship game, and then we'll see which Big Ten team it feels like is going to show up there. Now, I keep saying the Big Ten. I know that Texas Christian was able to beat Michigan and go to the national championship game, but you also saw how that went for Texas Christian after they got the national championship game. Nobody wants to get to the national championship game and get embarrassed like that, right? I know that Washington made it last year out of the now two-team Pac-12, but if we're looking at the preseason and we're starting from a jumping off point, it's really difficult to come out here and say that someone other than the Big Ten, the SEC, are going to end up in the national championship. Now, we're playing more games, which means there are going to be more variables. It also means that there are more opportunities for teams that have never made the playoff to not just make it, but to go on a tear. If Penn State was able to go on a tear, it wouldn't shock that many people, but the 12-team playoff would have also done what it was supposed to do, which is give programs like Penn State a foothold to try to go do something worthwhile. I think Penn State is a great example here because Penn State makes the Rose Bowl and beats the Pac-12 champ, right? Like, they've done that before. They can do that. They are capable. But beating Ohio State and Michigan in the same year, that ain't something they've proven to be capable of in the James Franklin era. They can beat one, not both. And you know what? This year, they ain't got to beat but one in the regular season, so they might not have to beat more than one all the way up through a national championship run. But I started this place in talking about Georgia because we are a culture that is consumed with dynasties. We are consumed with perennial favorites. We are consumed with, hey, I want to see you not win one, but win 8, right? I want to see dominance. And I know people claim to be bored by it, but I'm not bored by the U.S. women's national basketball team looking to win an 8th straight gold medal. I love seeing it. I do not want to see the U.S. women's national team get anything like pushed. I want to see them going after the South Sudan, unlike unlike these men who tried to throw it in against the damn South Sudan, the youngest country in the entire world. Now, they can hoop, they can play, but my point is, you get my point here, right? Are we seeing the rest of the field catch up to Georgia? That's the question, okay? Michigan feels like they're there. They showed that last year. Greater than the sum of their parts, which is usually what it takes for you to go win a national championship, and then you're built the foundation to go do it. So is Michigan an example of what we're going to see more of? Teams that are good enough, professional enough, run the ball enough, sound on defense enough to go beat a really great team in the college football playoff? Or not? Like, that's where I'm at right now. And I wanted to talk about Georgia here from that context because I genuinely believe that the Dogs are just ridiculous, but they're also going to have to go through a ridiculous schedule, and they're going to give us a good indication of just who's who in the new 12-team format. If they struggle, I expect chaos everywhere. If they don't struggle, it's as it was. And that should not shock anybody.